Hello and welcome to Philosophy Vibe, the channel where we discuss and debate different philosophical ideas. Today we're going to be looking into the philosopher George Berkeley and his beliefs on God.
Excellent.
Firstly, in order to really understand George Berkeley's philosophy on God, you need to understand Berkeley's theory of idealism. We have a whole video dedicated to this, so if you haven't seen it or you're not familiar with the theory, then please give that a watch first. The link is in the description. However, to give a brief explanation of idealism. Idealism was Berkeley's radical theory in philosophy of perception, which argued for the rejection of the material world. For Berkeley, reality was just made up of ideas. No matter, no external world, just ideas in our mind. Berkeley's philosophy is summed up by the Latin phrase esse est percipi. To be is to be perceived. All of reality, everything we see around us, is just mental ideas, mind-dependent sense data.
Yes, this is a truly fascinating theory.
Indeed it is, and Berkeley gives some compelling arguments for idealism, and it is definitely a popular philosophy. Now, I want to pick up from Berkeley's idealism and look at his ideas around God. So let us assume that Berkeley is right. All of reality is just a series of mind-dependent ideas. The whole of the material world is just mental ideas, and something only exists if there is a mind there to perceive it. Without perception, we do not have existence.
Okay.
Well, immediately there are obvious questions we must ask. If existence is perception, then if something is not perceived, it must not exist. It is the old philosophical question, if a tree falls in the woods and no one is around, does it make a sound? Well, the answer would be no. If no one is there to hear the sound and have that idea, then it didn't take place.
Yes, I agree.
But what about the tree itself? What about its continuity?
What do you mean?
If there is no one around to perceive the tree, then the tree itself ceases to exist. If no one is having this mental idea of the tree, then the tree too does not exist.
Yes, I suppose so.
So how would the tree fall? How does idealism account for something like this? How can a tree fall if no one is around? If no one is around, then the tree doesn't even exist, as there is no external world outside of human perception. If that is the case, then all continuity in our absence raises a lot of complications for idealism. If I was to light a candle and leave the room for a few hours, we could assume that the candle has an intermittent period of not existing, as it is not being perceived. Yet, when I arrive back in the room, the candle has melted, implying it was burning during my absence. It was burning while it was not being perceived, which would imply a continued existence while I was not perceiving it. How could this happen without a material external world? This and all other unperceived continuity needs to be explained by idealism.
Yes, I see the problem.
It is here that Berkeley turns the focus on God. Whilst it is the case that everything we perceive is just mind-dependent ideas, at the same time, we have unperceived continuity. This is because everything we as humans do not perceive is still being perceived by another mind, a greater mind, an infinite mind, a spirit, and this is God himself. God is the infinite mind in which all of reality is part of. God is the mind that all ideas come from, and God orders and structures the whole of reality. So, when we perceive the tree, we are just perceiving mental ideas of a tree. However, when we leave, God is still perceiving this tree in our absence. God is perceiving the whole of reality all at once. It is the super infinite mind that all of reality is part of, and so the continuity can persist. The tree can fall while I'm not there. The candle can carry on burning when I leave the room. The grass can grow in the rainforest, and the waves can crash on the shore on the deserted island. All because God is perceiving it all. It is all part of God's infinite mind, the omnipresent, omniscient, eternal mind.
I see.
Our sensory perceptions are not under our control. Reality is a certain way, and I perceive things a certain way. I do not have control in shaping or creating this world I perceive. I am a passive mind. If that is the case, then the ideas must come to me from something else. If there is no material world, if we have rejected matter and we do not create our own ideas, reality is already structured and ordered with rules and laws, then these ideas must come from another being, another substance, another mind, and this is the mind of God.
Yes, that makes sense.
So, to conclude, Berkeley gives us good grounds to adopt idealism as a theory. Once we accept idealism, we see that all of reality is just in the mind of God. Everything we see, feel, hear, touch and taste is all in God's mind. Us, our conscious minds, us as people are nothing more than an idea of God. We live in God's mind. Everything around us is an idea from an infinite mind. We are just an idea of God.
Yes, a fascinating take on God, and this fits in very well with the idealist philosophy of perception, and it does fill the gaps in idealism, making it a good all-round and complete theory.
Yes, it does.
However, this concept of God only really makes sense if we adopt idealism. If we are materialists or even indirect realists, we do not need to believe that we all live in the mind of God. But even still, assuming we are all idealists, there are still some matters that need to be addressed when we are discussing this concept of God.
Like what?
If we are all in the mind of God, and we are just ideas in this infinite mind, then our ideas are also being perceived and felt by God, right?
Right.
So, when I feel pain, would this not imply that God feels pain? And how does that work with an omnipotent being? Should we expect an omnipotent being to feel pain? Surely, if a being can feel pain, then this is actually an imperfection.
Yes, I see the argument. However, I think you can make a distinction here from feeling pain and creating pain. So yes, pain would be an involuntary idea, and involuntary ideas are created and maintained by God. But I do not see why this would mean God feels the pain, only that he has created the idea.
But he has created the idea for me, another idea, to feel. I am therefore feeling pain, and I am an idea in God's mind. Does it not mean that God feels this pain too?
Well, let me ask you, if you are having a dream and one of your characters in the dream is in pain, do you feel that pain? This is the same sort of thing. Reality is like God's dream. He has created all the surrounding, and you are a character in God's dream. You are conscious with your own mind and your own ideas, but your mind is still ultimately a product of the infinite mind, and so your pain does not mean the infinite mind feels pain.
Okay, but this is starting to look a bit absurd. So, the person in my dream is in my mind. I am in God's mind. Could there be a super God, and this God is just in his mind? And could super God just be in the mind of super God? And could super God be in the mind of super God? And so on ad infinitum.
Ultimately, we would get the infinite, the biggest mind that encompasses all of reality. It is either that or an infinite regress, and then you have to deal with all the logical problems of infinite regress. Generally, an infinite mind is what we mean by God. Should there be a trail of minds from our reality to reach the infinite mind, these would not be God.
Okay, but still, Berkeley's concepts on God seem more like pantheism, or at least panentheism, rather than a traditional belief in God. If we are all part of God's mind, and all of reality is part of God's mind, then this would mean we are all part of God, and everything is God. This would actually be a challenge for a traditional theistic position that tends to reject pantheism or monism.
Good point. If you would like to help support the channel, then please check out the Philosophy Vibe paperback anthology book range available on Amazon. These are a complete compilation of all our scripts split into 3 volumes: Philosophy of Religion, Metaphysics, and Ethics and Political Philosophy. Definitely worth a read, especially for anyone studying philosophy academically. Also, please check out our merch store on Spring, a great range of philosophical merchandise on offer there. All sales really help out the channel and we really appreciate it. But that's all the time we have for now. Thank you for watching, we hope you enjoyed the vibe, and what are your thoughts on Berkeley's idealism and his views on God? Let us know in the comments below, don't forget to like and share, and for more philosophical debates please subscribe to the channel. Take care and we look forward to seeing you all soon.